On today's episode of the Wild Party podcast, I'm thrilled to introduce you to Emilie Mascarell, the founder of Maison Mascarell, a stunning eco-conscious hand care brand that blends French elegance with modern sustainability. Emilie brings over 15 years of experience in the luxury beauty world, but it was her passion for conscious consumerism and beautiful product design that led her to launch Maison Mascarell, a refillable hand soap brand built on craftsmanship, intoxicating fragrance, and environmental impact. In this episode, we talk about her innovative hand soap tablet system, her approach to packaging design and fragrance formulation, the challenges she faced bringing her brand to market, and what it really takes to build a purpose-driven beauty brand today. This conversation is full of practical insight and creative inspiration. Let's get the party started. Welcome to the Wild Party podcast, where we celebrate the visionaries behind vegan, ethical, and sustainable business. In each episode, we'll dive deep into their journeys, uncovering the why behind their mission-driven business. I'm your host, Stefanie Tune in with me for passionate discussions about overcoming challenges, innovative marketing strategies, and the power of using business as a force for good. So whether you're an entrepreneur seeking guidance or a conscious consumer wanting to support impactful brands, join us as we explore the stories behind the businesses that are changing the world for the better. Let's get the party started. And today on the show, I am so excited to introduce Emilie Mascarell, the founder of Maison Mascarell, which is a gorgeous, eco-conscious hair care brand that brings French elegance and fine fragrances to refillable, sustainable products. And when we tell you a little bit more about what's going on, you're going to be as excited as I am, because Emilie is a beauty industry veteran who spent over a decade with iconic brands and now is on a mission to prove that sustainability does not have to mean sacrifice, and that mindful consumption can be both beautiful and accessible. So welcome to the show, Emilie. Boy, am I excited to talk to you.
Thank you. Happy to be there.
Yes, I have had the pleasure now, after having quite a few shows on the Wild Party, of just meeting so many different entrepreneurs like you that literally when I see the business or the product, I sit there and think, how on earth did they come up with this? So I want to get into all of the nitty-gritty about where this idea came to you. But first, let's take it back a little, because you did spend a very long time working in what we call like the corporate beauty industry before you launched your business. So what was that like for you working on that corporate side? And, did you find it fulfilling, or was there something kind of missing? What was that like for you?
So, I would say that I'm very grateful for the corporate experience. I worked at L'Oreal on like beautiful brand with Lancome. I worked at Le Labo when it was a startup, and then post-acquisition by Estée Lauder. So I had both the startup and the corporate side on the same brand, and worked at Tory Burch. So I would say that to me, like I got lucky to work in the corporate world with brands that really focused on luxury, and I really took that attention to detail, that attention to high quality, and really own that. But I would say that, what I was missing when I reached, a few years, over 10 years at Le Labo, and quite a few years in corporate overall, is like I kind of like wanted to go back to the roots of what I liked and where I started, and working on like being more closely creating products, and kind of like being more hands-on. And that's kind of where I started initially with a consulting business 3 years ago, because I was like, there's a lot that is amazing in corporate. It's really like all that learning, all those teams that you can kind of like tap into for regulatory, for formulation, for packaging, for everything you could think of. But in the same time, you don't have the flexibility of the startup. So I started that business thinking, okay, how about bringing all that knowledge, all that expertise that is a bit like kind of like a kept secret in this industry, and bring that to startup as a consultant, so that they have basically the support that they would have with all those teams to a certain extent, while having that beautiful flexibility, that comes with being a startup, and less pressure. So to me, it was really nice to be able to kind of like take some of that knowledge and making it adaptable for startup brands. And that's really where like I'm excited to work with founders, with small brands, with different markets, and kind of like where also I started like thinking about my own business from there.
And when you were on the corporate side, what was your role? Were you in marketing or product development, or really where were you working?
So I've been working in both trade marketing, product marketing, so really the positioning of the product, the claims, or the design, all that kind of things, and the actual product development. So formula development, fragrance development, packaging. And having worked in a small brand, I worked on visual merchandising, I worked on amenities program, or like kind of like everything that you think of. So it really gave me like that like 360 view on the product side.
Yeah, I asked that question specifically because when I went to your website, I was like, this lady knows marketing and she knows product placement because it was so perfectly laid out. So I was very interested to see if that was actually your background because I'm like, she knows what she's doing here beyond just having a great product. So, you mentioned, just being on the corporate side after a while, you were just kind of, bored and really wanted to set out on your own. Had you started other businesses before? Like, where did you get this entrepreneur spark to really even feel like you could go out on your own? Because it's a scary venture, you know?
It is scary. I have to say it's scary. And I think that's kind of why I was like, okay, I'm leaving a role after 10 years. I'm taking another role. But then, I was kind of like waiting for the perfect time, and that perfect timing doesn't exist. I'm sure every founder tells you the same. And it's just like, I had that idea of Maison Mascarell, and I really, having a child, I got really even more sensitive to the sustainable side and really wanted, to contribute to making products that are better for the environment that most of the things that you find on the market today. And I think it's just like I was more driven by the passion of it. And then as I putting the numbers together as a product developer, I handled all the product costs. So I put that together and kind of like, well, I guess the time is now.
Well, I mean, that is the secret. When people ask what's the best time to start a business, the answer always is right now, because no matter what's going on in the world, there's always a time to start a business. You just have to be willing to put in the time and energy to do it, which clearly you did. So I teased at the beginning that I was going to explain to everybody exactly what your product was. You actually created these hand soap tablets that you mix with water. So it's less waste, it's a better product, and it's just a better offering. So where did you come up with this idea for these hand soap tablets?
So having worked in beauty for so many years, like I know that all those like hand soap, body wash formulas, they're like 90% water. And to me, it's kind of like nonsense to keep, wasting water, shipping water, buying, basically a hand soap is not much more than a plastic bottle of water. And it just like started to make no sense to me. And I tried out a product that had either like concentrate or like other type of tablet. And I was missing like the texture, that like silky sensorial texture that you get in like a liquid hand soap. So that's kind of where I was like, there must be a way to do it in a more luxurious way, to do it with like fine fragrance. And that's how we kind of like I went on a mission with the tablet. And also living in New York, you don't really want to have those like gigantic container to refill your hand soap. You don't have the real estate for that. So that was also part of it. I was like, I don't want to keep like bringing like huge refill of soap at home. So it was convenient to me. And it kind of solved my problem to start with. And then I really wanted to have a packaging that would go with it, that I would actually want to refill, that, really had like more that luxury feel to it than what you usually see in the sustainable market. And I didn't want to add more plastic because at the end of the day, we all know that most of the plastic doesn't get recycled. So to me, it's just a nonsense to keep selling plastic and adding plastic to the world. So that's kind of where it started with like, okay, let's have a packaging that is sustainable, Let's have like nice glass bottle. Let's have like nice formula that people will actually want to refill, and really kind of like basically try to be in that luxury market, but with something that is sustainable. Whereas usually in the luxury market, you really want to have product that are a little bit or a little bit going to be more are going to be less impactful, I would say, for the environment. I think tablet for luxury brands would definitely be a trouble, but I kind of want to prove that you can make it happen.
Well, you really did, because I mean, you've answered like or not answered, but you have provided so many solutions to so many of the problems we created for ourselves. Because I like that you just brought up the whole refillery industry that has popped up now, which I personally love. But like you, it is very difficult to be able to refill a large bottle because you're like, all right, I don't want to use small single-use plastics. I'll refill a larger bottle that I will keep reusing over and over. But like you, okay, so I don't live in New York, but I live in LA. But similar products, a problem. I don't have the space around me necessarily for big refillable things, and I don't always have the ability to go and go back and forth to refill stuff, right? So
Mhm.
this has been a problem with me too. So I've been looking more into like buying stuff that is in bar form and things like that. And beyond like a bar hand soap, I didn't really ever see a product like yours. So when I saw the soap tablets, I'm like, oh my God, this is brilliant. Because not only could I use them at home, I can take them when I travel. So was that part of your process too when you were thinking about it? Like people could take these with them, and it just makes it like something that's now travel size too, without even bringing, a whole another like container with you.
Yeah, I was like, that's easier. Like even just doing the groceries, like you carry already so many other things. It's like if we can have something that is like lightweight and easy, definitely. And that's definitely something I have in mind for future product, like that idea of like travel, for like but a face product, body product. So that's definitely something that I have in mind is like that compact size to me has like so many, assets to it.
Yeah, and I remember a couple of years ago, it seemed like within the industry, we were starting to see the development of like these soap sheets, like the very fine soap
Hmm.
sheets that would either be like a body wash or a hand wash or even shampoo or conditioner. And they didn't really seem to take off for whatever reason. Maybe the market just wasn't ready. Maybe they weren't the right products. But now again, that we're seeing, entrepreneurs and business developers like you that are revisiting that. I love that you're now taking it to the luxury side and making it a really nice sensory experience as well. So take us through that process of how you were able to develop this product. Like, where did you know which chemists to go to? Like, how did you know which product, ingredients to use? What did that look like for you on the development side? Because it's one thing to have an idea, it's another thing to say, I can create this product that fulfills so many needs that people have.
Yeah, so for that, I really looked more at the European manufacturers simply because there's a bit more of tablets and solid format and eco-friendly products in Europe that at least I know. And being French, I went directly to the French manufacturers. And in France, there's like a couple brands who are really doing very well with that tablet system, tablet toothpaste, and all those kind of things. So I went to a French manufacturer and really talked about how I really wanted it to be also really like sensorial, have that like silky, luxurious feel. We talked about moisturizing ingredients, and I happen to have very dry hands myself, so that was definitely a priority for me to have ingredients that really would not dry your skin. I would really leave it more like moisturized and soothe. So that's kind of where we ended up with like the aloe vera, snow mushroom, because they're like moisturizing ingredients. I can hold a lot of like moisture weight. And then for the fine fragrance, I went to the fragrance house I know, and I really wanted to make sure that it would be like at the fine fragrance level and working with like perfumer that really understand the vision behind it.
And describe to us what the fragrance, because obviously people can't smell because it's an audio podcast. Describe the fragrance for our audience. What does it smell like?
Yeah, it's very inspired by the south of France. I grew up both in Paris and in the south of France, and when I moved to the south of France, to me it was like really like something that like just clicked with me, and I really like fell in love with the smell of Provence, of lavender, like this ambery notes. So the fragrances I get like very kind of like more fresh opening, and then you have like that like warm aromatic ambery, lavender, woody kind of smell to it. So it transports you in France.
Well, I have had the pleasure and the privilege to visit Paris a few times. I have never made it outside the city, and that is definitely on my bucket list. But let me tell you, all of my experiences in Paris is exactly like the movies. It's just this magical place. So it doesn't surprise me that that was one of the inspirations for you, creating something like this. Also, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but your product is also vegan and cruelty free.
Mhm.
So was that important to you?
That's important to me. I mean, I'm vegetarian. I did not make the move to vegan yet, but like I really want to make sure that like in every product around me, as conscious as possible. I don't think that you need to harm animals in any way to make beauty products in 2025. So th that was definitely something that was important for me.
Yeah, and as a beauty insider, I mean, you were working for some of the biggest beauty corporations, which back in the day, a lot of them, I mean, I've been a member of PETA, which is the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, since I was 16. And some of the names you mentioned, I remember them being on our, protest list for years.
Hmm.
And I do know a lot of these beauty brands now have taken strides to, really go through their methodology and change the way they do things, everything from removing animal ingredients to now stopping to use animal testing, which I totally love. But for you being on the inside, I imagine that was very hard for you to see that that was the products that you were actually putting out into the world.
Yeah, you don't realize when you start in the industry. And, I think, a lot of things also come not necessarily from the brands, but from the regulations. So China kind of like soften up, the animal testing and all those kind of things. But I also feel like there's more awareness today. But when I started in the industry, I think people did not even necessarily realize that when they were sending their products for registration somewhere, that it was necessarily coming with animal testing or things along those lines. So, and I think, even manufacturers always tell you they do not want to test on animal. They do not want to do any of those like testing, and they all agree that you do not need to have animal derived ingredients. So there's a new wheel in the industry. I think I think we're lucky that it's evolving and that it's evolving in most parts of the world. So to me, that was definitely like that's like table stake. You have to do your part as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like you said, a lot of these businesses didn't want to be involved in it, but in order for their product to be sold in certain parts of the world, like China mandates that you can't
Hmm.
sell certain products unless they're tested on animals. So then it becomes, well, what do I do in that circumstance? But like you said, we're moving past that, and I'm really grateful that we do have, leaders in the industry like you that are like, not only can we do a better way, but we can make truly a luxury product that people really want. So that's amazing. So your business, you not only started it on your own, but you financed it on your own. So what was that like when you had the idea and you start trying to get the formulations together? What was the next step of then trying to bring it to market?
It's scary. I have to say it's scary because, you make all those estimates and obviously you made them sound like nice and you're like, yeah, I can work with that. And I decided to put my savings in there. And then you start being like, okay, so that's all it takes me to produce my product for the first round. And then you realize that, okay, your product might get stuck in custom, which happened to me. It happened around the holidays. So instead of being something that you resolve in a few days, it's something that took 2 to 3 weeks. And obviously you pay for the storage fees for that. And then when you look at the go-to market strategy, you relook at it from like a organic kind of way. If you bootstrap, at least that's what I did. I didn't want to go right away with like ads and anything without even knowing if the product was resonating with the audience and without knowing, what was the potential. Basically, I kind of like looked at it as like this is, what you call the MVP product, and you kind of like test it out and see how people feel about it. I was like, are people going to be refilling their bottles? Are they going to use tablets? Is that going to resonate with them? And I really kind of like try to tap into the audience where I think they are. So to me, it's really social media. It's really going to events. Every time I go to events, people are interested and curious. We've been very lucky to be on the Drew Barrymore show. So that's been huge in terms of visibility for the brand, and I brought a lot of interest. And I do a lot of PR on my own, so I reach out to a lot of publication, and I'm so grateful for people like you and journalists who are reaching out, who are interested, and who are supporting the brand at the very beginning. So it's been a lot of like kind of like small things, and then we joined Pact also, so that we can be with the same like-minded companies and brands who are also very sensitive to the sustainable side, and partnering with a lot of like people who are like important in this industry to me is really helping with the visibility with the right audience. And then we're starting to look at we're doing a pop-up this summer at a pop-up grocer in New York, which I'm so excited about because people are going to be able to touch the product, to feel the product. So it's kind of like trying like step by step to kind of like grow a little bit the visibility of the brand. We launched on Nordstrom.com, which has been nice. We're on fair, so we have like a few small boutiques. We're ordering and reordering. So it's kind of like trying to go in a soft way. And so far it's been doing well. So I'm like fingers crossed. So far so good. But it's like baby steps, and you just try things. Some things don't try. Like we tried a lot of like, gifting to influencers, and then I was like, I don't know, it didn't really resonate. Let's really just more focus on people that really like align with the audience rather than like gifting everywhere, which also doesn't go with the sustainability side. So there's a bit of learning and trying, I have to admit.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the influencer thing because I've talked to business owners. In fact, one of our shows that was previously published, she did have the experience where an influencer, well, she didn't even know she was an influencer. I don't think she was along the lines of what you would call like a mega influencer, but she had enough of an audience where she talked about the product, and then this business did really see, the sales all of a
Mhm.
sudden. But you're right, it doesn't always happen. And it's kind of like hit or miss, and then making sure you're finding the right person. So especially with a product like yours where it's a soap tablet, I think that might even be like a little bit harder sell because then it's like, well, who would want to talk about that, right? But you're exactly right. If you could go to do a pop-up or being in person, to have people experience the product is just, the gold ticket I've found. I've
Mhm.
also talked to many business owners that go like the farmers market route, just being able to get it out into the public. So, when you were first developing your product, I know that you've said many times sustainability doesn't mean compromise. So, when you were first creating the product, like, and giving it to people, what was the first reactions that you were getting? What was some of the feedback?
So I think it's been really cool because people actually kind of like liked mixing it themselves. Like they saw it as like a fun, like do it yourself kind of kit. So when was the last time you've made soap yourself? So it's kind of like brought something like kind of like fun. A lot of people do it with their kids as well, which has been fun, and everybody's come intrigued because you have to let it sit for like a few hours for it to become like the full soap texture. You can use it before that, but it's good to let it sit a few hours. And so people are so, amazed by how the formula is the following day when they look at it, and it's like a real like liquid hand soap. And yeah, so people have been really receptive to the idea. I would say that we're also being lucky with people gifting it a lot. So we had corporate gifting, people reaching out to us. We had people reordering for their families. So there's definitely been like that kind of like effect with the packaging and the box design that definitely helped us out too. And people love the smell. They're like, I haven't smelled anything like that before, and so it's been a lot of surprise. But like I would say that it's like it's fun because it's like people discovering something they have never tried before.
I love it. It's like a fun activity. You're right. And
Hmm.
for all of us little home chemists, I think things like that, yes, it actually elevates the whole washing your hands experience to also be like kind of like a fun task too. And I also wanted to mention because you had brought it up earlier about having dry hands and dry skin. I'll let you know, like I am borderline kind of like a germaphobe. I am always washing my hands, like always washing my hands. And so my hands are like dry a lot. So I'm constantly putting on some kind of hand cream and things like that. And I do look for, soap that is a little bit more gentle on my hands. So, obviously seeing a product like yours, I'm like, great. Not only would it be moisturizing, but also very eco-conscious and checks all the boxes for me. So, definitely as far as what I'm looking for in a product, it sounded very attractive and very interesting. But, I was already looking for that. So with that said, when you have consumers that maybe aren't, aware of a product like that, let's say that isn't in a bottle, like you add it to a bottle with water, and it really is about sustainability and things like that. How do you educate your consumers, or how are you educating your audience of how to use your product? Are you finding it, people are a little bit skeptical at first, or what's that been like?
I would say that people have been pretty good at, mixing it on their own and, finding the tips and taking a bit of time to do it. What we do is, so we have the instruction on our website with the video and a step by step, but they also receive an email couple days after they place their order, which is like, hey, this is the first time. We know first time can be a little bit scary. We're here to guide you. And we just kind of like remind them all the steps. But it's people, I think, are a little bit more like excited and surprised than worried about it. And I see people reordering, so they're like, okay, so now they're like pro in refill. Now they're professionals.
Yeah, and it's just a matter again of just some behavior change, because we have now been taught to expect this hand soap in a bottle. And I'll tell you, so as I've mentioned on the show before, my age, I am 54 years old. And when I was growing up, I remember distinctly in like my grade school kind of era. So like I would have been, I don't know, anywhere from like 6 to 12-ish, in America standards, that's our grade school. All of a sudden on the market, we kept hearing about soft soap. So there was soft soap did this big launch, and it was soap in a bottle. And that was something like we really didn't have, honestly. I just remember it vividly from my childhood, that being a big thing and us being like, oh, this soap is great. And then I started thinking about it before the show today. I'm like, were we only using bar soap? So did it only really take, let's say, 20 years to educate the entire consumer market that soap comes in a bottle? And could we then take 20 years to re-educate everyone that now soap comes in a tablet? So I got very excited right before our interview, because I'm like, oh my God, Emilie, you are part of the movement that is going to re-educate people on how to use hand soap. That's
I feel
what you're
like
doing.
it's a full circle, because I think it's also about, once the plastic industry, started growing, everything is cheaper to make with plastic. So everything became disposable. When you think about the past and how, your milk bottle was being reused and, everything was being reused, and then it became just cheaper to have disposable product than making them reusable. So I feel like there's definitely a lot to take from the past there, and to me that's kind of like what I looked into with the bottle, was the idea that why do you keep buying another bottle when you could just like use the same bottle and reuse it, as long as it's lasting well, which is, where to me was important to have like a really like nice high quality bottle that you would really reuse and that would last. And that gives me a lot of hopes for a lot of products, because I'm like, why do we need to always buy new packaging for everything? So it just doesn't make sense to me. It makes sense financially. I get that. It's cheaper, oddly, to make new packaging all the time than to refill packaging. But that's really kind of like where it also started in my mind. It's like I would rather reuse the same thing than always buying a new bottle. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and then the crazy thing was, and I don't know if this happened as much in Europe, but in America then, so we started buying all of these plastic bottles of hand soap and things like that. And then we would go to like one of the bath stores, the many, big corporate bath stores that were around here. I don't even know which ones are in business anymore. And then buy a really pretty container to take our plastic bottle, pour it into the pretty container, and then that's the one we would have on our sink or somewhere. So it was like the whole thing was just messed up at that point, because you were taking like, oh, well, now it's in a bottle, but now I'm going to buy a fancy bottle, pour it into the fancy bottle, get
Hmm.
rid of the plastic bottle. And then it's just like you said, it's just more waste and we weren't really thinking of it. So, with that said, your soap actually comes with this gorgeous glass bottle. So tell me about the packaging for this because you did say, within your corporate job, you were very involved in that. What was it like then developing or choosing what kind of glass bottle you were going to use for this? Because like you said, you're intending that people keep this bottle and they only reorder the soap tablets.
Yeah, so for the bottle, first to me, I wanted to have like a design that would not just say hand soap, and that would be a little bit more colorful and vibrant than what I'm used to seeing in the beauty industry. So I worked with a designer who is more in the beverage industry because I feel like, with wine bottle and beverage bottles, like, most of those bottles look the same. So you need to have like a design that stands out on the shelf. So I was kind of like looking at it into like, let's look at what like food and drinks are doing because that's more vibrant, that's more fun. That's kind of what I would want to bring in my product. And then for the glass bottle itself, I work with an Italian manufacturer that I've known on other projects, and Italy has like that long history of craftsmanship with glass and artisanal approach, but also really nice like technique for decoration, for production. So to me, that was important to work with a vendor that would really bring that level of quality. And then to combine that with a design that would be unique, recognizable. Every marketer would tell you it's terrible because you cannot read my logo on it, but that was also part of it. And bring something that was like more joyful. I'm not gonna hide that it comes with a level of challenge because it's the maximum amount of colors that I think you can put on a bottle. So it definitely challenged people there. But to me, that was the beauty of it to like be able to bring like color and bring something a little bit more, joyful to sustainability. Because I feel like everything in sustainability tends to be more like dull pastel color, like the light green, the light beige, the light brown, and the light coral. And I was like, I kind of want something a bit more vibrant. I don't want it to just scream sustainability. I just want it to feel nice. And then I hope that from there, you realize that it's also sustainable.
It is a really beautiful bottle, and I do love the labeling, and I do love that you brought color to it because you're right. When we get into the sustainability sector, everybody just wants to make everything kind of white and green, and it can get very bland. So, it's nice to have now a hand soap, like you said. It's a beautiful bottle for a beautiful product. And since on the label, you can see a little note at the bottom that says Raphael's favorite. I have to ask, who's Raphael?
So Raphael is my son. It's my 6-year-old boy. And to me, like the idea of like creating something that is sustainable is also thinking about his future. So it's really like thinking about him, and he's very involved. He likes to go to the warehouse. He likes to look at the packages. He likes to write notes. So he's very involved in the business more than you'd think. But it's really initially to me, it's really just about thinking about his future and connecting it to the purpose of the brand.
And he gets to see his mom as an entrepreneur launching a very successful global brand. So he's like, "Oh, wow, you can really do anything you want with your life." So I think that example to your child is great.
Yeah, I think he's also trying to sell it to all his friends, which is very funny. He's at the playground and he's telling his friends that mom's soap is sustainable, it's good for the world.
And he's like, "Look, my name's on it." Right? I
Yep,
mean, that's
yep,
that's got to be
he's
such
very
a kick
proud.
for him. I love that when I saw that because I love when products do that when they make like a personal call out, whether it's like employee favorites and things like that. You'll often
Mhm.
see that at coffee houses. I love that. It just gives such a personality to things, right? Sometimes business can get boring and it certainly can get stressful because I know you had a couple of little I don't want to say problems, maybe just challenges. Like you had some big brands challenging your original
Mhm.
brand name, and you had to learn a lot about brand protection and IP. So, do you want to talk a little bit about what was going on there?
Yeah, sure. So I had initially a different name for my brand. It was going to be called Maison Desinvolte. And there's a perfume on the market that is called Desinvolte, but it's not spelled the same way. It's not registered the same way. It's just a fine fragrance. I'm in the body space and I'm going to in the home space. I went with my gut feeling that it was fun and it was not registered the way it's being used and all that kind of things. Except that the brain behind it is the company LVMH. And so I filed my trademark. It was meeting the minimum for that, and then got published. And then on the last day where brands can oppose, so after the 30 days, on that very last day, I get a message from my trademark lawyer that is like, well, you've got an objection and it's coming from LVMH. And initially we were like, okay, let's try to find an agreement with them that I will not go into fine fragrance because that's not my goal. Let's show them the design because there's definitely no risk of confusion. And the perfume is only sold, online and in like it's a very limited distribution. This is not the same distribution. So this it's not gonna be in the same place. But then we had a few back and forth, and it was just going to be so limiting, and it was just not going to allow me to do anything. So at the end, I was like, I don't want to already like take away the freedom that I have on the brand by trying to make all those compromises from the beginning. And I at that time I had all the artwork, I had everything. I was going to go into production. And I was like, let's just drop it. And I put my last name instead, hoping that my last name is less popular. And I was like, let's just go with Maison Mascarell. Like, I don't want to go into another battle. And it's such a challenge to find a name to trademark that is not already taken by someone else. And it's challenging if you're a small business. Like, yeah, I could have like tried to keep arguing with LVMH for like 3 months, 6 months, but then it's like, how much money do they have? How much money do I have? And it just doesn't feel like bringing the right energy, and it doesn't feel like the right start. So I think I was a bit too stubborn initially, and I think I learned a lot from that. I'm like, let's just go ahead with my last name instead, and drop it there. But it's a challenge because your trademark is basically owned by you from the moment you are on the market. So one of the way to do it is kind of like start launching, and once you sell, then kind of like register your trademark. But in the same time, you want to have your trademark approved before launching on the market. So there's not like easy way to go around it. So to me, it's definitely a challenge, and I've had the same challenge around like naming in larger corporation, but it's easier on their end to assess the level of risk. Whereas when you're a small brand, like you don't wanna get into a battle that is just gonna take away all the money that you have to invest in the brand.
Well, I think in the end it did work out for you because the name Maison Mascarell, it just sounds so luxurious. I mean, it sounds elevated. So I think just having such a beautiful last name was just, the universe telling you, just go with your name. And again, bringing back, having that personality part of it. People really resonate with that because then they meet you and they're like, oh, that is you. That is your name, right?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's true. Like then people are like, oh, your name is Emilie Mascarell, the brand is Maison Mascarell, that's yours, good for you. And I'm like, okay. So
Yeah.
at least now people will know how to write my name.
That's true. I mean, I certainly can spell it now. So, since we talked about a challenge, share with us a success that you've had along the way that maybe surprised you or really gave you that boost when you needed it.
So to me, definitely being on the Dubai Marshall was like an extra boost. And then you have all those people ordering your product and reordering now and ordering refill. And like to me, that was definitely very helpful. But I would say that to me, the extra boost is like every time I talk to someone and they get excited about it and they order it, and you're like, okay, so it makes sense. Like people seem to reorder it. I think when I got my first refill order, I was like, yes, people are refilling it. People want it again. Yes, because that's the main thing. I was like, I hope people do not just buy the initial kit and never refill it, just as a kindness to me or because they like the bottle. But starting seeing refill to me is kind of like a testament to the fact that they like the formula as well. They want to support the business. I would say that being on Nordstrom was like a big win. It just like you've grown seeing Nordstrom and seeing brands at Nordstrom. So it's like, okay, now it's in a retail space. My mom is going to think that I'm doing more than just a hobby now. And I think like every like small milestone like that, like new distribution, new place, new article, new podcast, everything to me is just like, helping seeing the brand expand, and like feels like a win. So I celebrate all the wins.
Well, first of all, Thank you for even putting me like on the level of the Drew Barrymore show, because I have watched her my entire life, and just to be mentioned in the same sentence, that's pretty nice. I appreciate that. We're definitely more, on the startup phase ourselves here on the Wild Party podcast. But, the intention is to be able to bring awareness and light to amazing entrepreneurs like you that are really creating businesses that are changing the world for good. So, thank you for taking us along on that journey. And I'm really excited for everyone to try this beautiful hand soap. So tell our audience where they can find you online. And I think you have a special code for us.
Yeah, so you can find it online on our website, so maisonmascarell.com. You can find it on some partner retailers like Nordstrom.com. And if you're listening to that podcast, we're happy to offer a promo code and a 15% discount with the code The Wild Party.
Thank you so much. That is fabulous. This will all be in the blog article in the show notes. So if anyone didn't catch that, just go grab that on your way over to the website so you could try this out. Because remember, you order the starter kit and then you just have to get these pouch refills. And it's just so easy. I mean, I can't wait to try it myself. It looks beautiful and it just looks very inviting. So with that said, Emilie, thank you so much for sharing your stories. It was a delight to meet you. I do believe you actually reached out to us, right?
I did.
You
Yeah, I
did.
mean, I love what you're doing. I love that you're showing both, like, you tend to have like that ideal vision of like starting a business and everybody's going to order right away. And I love that you like bring entrepreneurs who can tell their story, what worked, what didn't work, and like the real side of it. I love the focus on sustainability. I feel like it's so important to also see what's happening in the sustainable world. So I'm so grateful for you to put a spotlight on brands like Maison Mascarell.
But with that said, Emilie, thank you so much for being on the show. It was lovely to meet you. Everyone, go run over to the website, check out this beautiful hand soap. I mean, the tablet idea is just revolutionary to me, and I'm so glad that we're now moving towards that. So thank you very much for your vision.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Wild Party podcast. If you're an entrepreneur or professional who would like to be on this podcast, please visit boomtownmarketing.com and click on podcast. We believe that every business has the potential to change the world for good, and we want to support our community to help make the world more ethical, compassionate, and sustainable for all future generations to come. And if you're looking to build your business, no matter what level you're at now, request your free marketing consultation at boomtownmarketing.com and click Get Started.